Welcome back to the Professional Lovers Channel. I'm Al.
And you know I'm Patty, and you know that we are here to talk about Married at First Sight. So first of all, we want to apologize that it took us so long to put last week's episode on. I've been really busy, and it just was getting away from me, trying to meet deadlines for some projects. But anyway, we got it up. Yeah. We haven't been able to look at your feedback yet, but we will. We'll answer both last week and this week together, because this week will get posted when it's supposed to. Anyway, you know that we've been married for 28 years. We think in 29 so long.
We're in the 29th year.
Yeah. And that we use our own personal experiences and tips from our book to talk about the issues on Married at First Sight. So this week's theme, two things. Dr. Pepper visits everybody this time.
Yeah.
They are 1 week from decision day, and so she was just checking in to see how everybody was feeling. And then the second theme was helping each other know where they came from by visiting their neighborhoods or their houses, their where they grew up, and writing a letter to their younger selves and sharing that with each other. So those are kind of the themes for tonight's discussion. And the first couple we start with is Jasmina and Michael, who are still on a good path.
They're dating.
Yeah, they're like besties.
Yeah.
They've started to grow into besties.
And I guess, they refer back to it often, that the first month, due to the fact that this is like a 2-month process, that first month they just were not open to one another and they didn't communicate. Whereas now all of a sudden, not all of a sudden, but they have become a little bit more open and vulnerable with one another and getting to enjoy getting to know each other.
And yet they're still stuck in the friend zone, albeit the bestie friend zone. Yeah, but neither of them are making any advances for any type of physical intimacy, which is sad, because when they both read their letters to each other, they had the perfect opportunity.
Well, just to embrace the vulnerability of one another.
And offer physical comfort.
Yeah.
And again, I know that in the after party, Mike said, I'm not doing that because she's already told me she's not there, and I don't feel like I have enough leeway to force myself on her, whatever. But it doesn't have to be that deep.
Yeah, it doesn't have to seem like abusive, or too
hug.
assertive. Yeah, I mean, just a simple confirmation touch,
rubbing the shoulder, just even doing a side hug
embrace,
if you aren't comfortable doing a frontal body hug. Anything, but neither of them did anything, and that was so disappointing.
Yeah.
Because it was a perfect, legitimate opportunity
definitely
to do that. I mean, even Mark and Lindsey with their constant, even Mark and Lindsey, who really shouldn't be together.
Did you just say that?
I did. And I believe it 100%. They do not need to be together, but at least they gave each other, well, no. When Lindsey read her letter, Mark did not offer physical comfort.
Well, Mark, and Mark is just going through a lot. I mean, he lost his favorite cat.
But he's kind of, closed off like that. Just
naturally. I think that's
what I'm saying.
Part of,
just like
him.
Michael and Jasmina are kind of closed off like that.
But I don't think that they're both that closed off. I just think that they're fearful of somebody. I think that's their last step of vulnerability. Somebody needs to initiate that step. I think Mike has to do it, because I think Jasmine is more of a traditional kind of girl. That's just my opinion.
The sense that you get.
Yeah.
Well, like I said, even Mark and Lindsey show some kind of physical affection.
But they've been physical.
Yeah.
So.
But anyway, Since we're talking about Mark and Lindsey, let's just go to them next.
Let's just
Because, Lindsey started out the evening complaining about Mark as normal. And then with Dr. Pepper's visit, she, basically threw in the towel.
yeah.
I feel like he always justifies himself with everything that he does.
He thinks I'm too much.
He thinks I'm too much, and he wants me to water myself down. And, he doesn't put me first. And I mean, all the normal things that she has said over the last 6 weeks, 7 weeks.
Would you consider her narcissistic?
I think that's kind of strong.
Okay. It's just a question.
Yeah, but
A closet narcissist?
no, see, to me, a narcissist is someone who does things to belittle you in order to make themselves feel important.
I got you. Okay.
And I don't think she goes to those lengths.
No. I don't think she belittles him, but
right. But she is.
She wants more out of him.
Well, she wants herself.
Or somebody like herself.
She wants to be married to herself.
Whoa.
And I say that because, as she described to Dr. Pepper, I need somebody who wants to go new places. I want somebody who wants to try new foods. I want somebody who basically does what I like to do to the degree that I like to do it. And the fact that he doesn't like doing most of that stuff, and she does not even honor the fact that he does them, because he does them begrudgingly.
Yeah. I mean,
and he's not having a good time at it.
But it's so constant. And that's the whole issue.
That's his issue.
Yeah. That you're
it's
always
every day.
There.
Every day.
Every meal. Try this. I don't do that. Try it. You might like it.
And for him, she doesn't respect boundaries.
Yeah. Well, she doesn't have any boundaries. No filters, I mean,
when he was saying to Dr. Pepper, it's like constant poking, constant pinching, constant biting, constant licking. And you know what? If you're not a touchy-feely person,
yeah,
and I'm not particularly a touchy-feely person to where I can take that kind of physical contact that seems incessant, I can't deal with that either. I can't deal with that. And then when you don't stop, when I ask you to stop, that's not a good feeling. And so I can empathize with him.
Well, we both can. I mean, I was a tickler. I mean, that was kind of like my
we talked about that before.
But
and
she
that is
doesn't
not
like
me.
It, so I'm not going to do something she doesn't like doing.
Exactly. And that's, Lindsey doesn't seem to get that.
Yeah.
She takes it as an affront
because
that you don't want me to do that. And it's like, and that is your way of telling me that I'm
too much.
Yeah, and belittling me because you don't like what I'm doing.
Yeah.
They both have too many issues that they need to unpack, clear out, move out of the closet before they can really
learn themselves. I mean, really
thrive with somebody else.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's why I say they don't need to be together.
Yeah. I mean, they're two extremes in just personality types. They may like and want and ultimately desire the same things, but the road that each of them take are two totally separate journeys.
Yeah. So, although, Lindsey is there in the hard times, and when he had to put his cat down, he really appreciated her nurturing, because in those moments, she's calm with her nurturing.
True.
She's not being aggressive.
Well, and he's the same way. Nurturing. When she was sick last week, he stepped up to the plate, took her to, I guess, urgent care or wherever it was, because they were in a remote location. And, he did what needed to be done. And, he was a provider. So they both have capabilities, but I don't know if they have it for each other.
Yeah. Katina and Olajuwon. He took her to the hood and, shared with her how growing up in that environment made him who he is. She took him to church because that's where a lot of her good memories were made, and they both discovered that they'd like to raise their kids in the church. So that was a commonality. Now, what we missed was their talk with Dr. Pepper because our TV acted up, but we did get some of the general sense through the after party where, and we did hear him, start talking about how is she going to be able to have kids and get her get her college degree and be the wife that he needs. And as he discussed this on with Keisha Knight Pulliam, I still get the sense that while him wanting Katina to achieve her goals is something that he says he is one reason, the main reason why he doesn't think they should say yes, I still think it's more for himself.
Because he felt that he already put his sacrifices to bed, and now he can do what he chooses to do.
Right.
And what he is failing to understand is that whatever journey each of them have independently, they can still share that journey together.
But that's the thing. I don't think he wants to share that journey.
I don't think he understands what sharing is because he hasn't had to.
Well, there you go.
And I really
believe
that.
And it's sad that he's willing to throw away a relationship with a woman that he's never experienced before.
That he says constantly is the best thing for him. It has been the best relationship because, again, I think he's relating back to Isaac that didn't have relationships.
Right.
He had events or whatever, whatever it was that he was doing. But why would you sacrifice a potential relationship that you feel you can share your life with someone that makes you a better person, that looks out for you, that kind of brings you, because you're intense, that your personality is intense, and she just soothes you. Why do you give that up? I mean, and you say that it's a sacrifice on your part to allow her to get what she needs.
It's a sacrifice for her.
Share that experience. Share that experience. I don't care what you go through. If you find someone that you are outside of your normal self, and you like that person that you are with that individual,
and you see your own growth with that individual,
why would you want to? I don't know. Why would you want to not continue that to become your better self? So, don't.
There's a tinge of selfishness there, and on the one hand, I mean, as you said, he already made his sacrifices,
and I understand,
and to get where he is now, and he wants to enjoy it. But I don't think that he would not enjoy it.
Well, just like Lindsey said,
because he's supporting her,
right? But like Lindsey said in the after party, what makes you think that she can't handle both? In her achieving her goals, you collectively starting a family, and the traveling that you want to do, that you share those experiences with your wife. That's what they call life.
Right. So. Right. So, we'll see where that goes. And the whole idea behind, we're going to talk about our last couple in a minute, but the whole idea behind, seeing where each other came from, and seeing how that has informed who they are now is important.
It is.
Because everybody's environment and upbringing contributes to the adults that they are.
True.
And there are 2 tips in our book. One tip says that you're alike enough to understand each other, meaning that you have more in common than not.
True.
And then the next tip says, but you're different enough to enrich each other.
Yeah.
Which is that, pushing you out of your comfort zone to experience new things, to grow in new ways. And you have to have the balance that you have between those 2 things, being alike enough to understand each other, but different enough to enrich each other, really determines the strength of your bond.
True.
When those 2 things are in more balance than not. And that's why I said Mark and Lindsey don't need to be together.
Yeah.
I don't know if ever, but they certainly don't need to be together right now, because they're too out of balance with that. They don't understand each other because the commonality is too few.
Yeah.
And, while they can enrich each other, and Lindsey tries to do more enriching of Mark than Mark Lindsey.
Yeah.
It's just too out of balance. And you need both. You need both. Noi and Steve. Her upbringing really showed why she treats conflict the way she does. She was not allowed to express emotions, and she told Dr. Pepper, frankly, I've been too scared to say when I'm upset or when I don't like something, or because that's been trained and ingrained
to be stifled
in her. Yeah.
And basically that's that unused muscle of expression, of expressing your feelings and saying what's on your mind and how you feel about a situation that needs to be addressed. I mean, it evidently needs to be addressed, but at a young age it was always suppressed because the household, it wasn't allowed.
Right.
And what you learn at a young age sticks with you throughout your life. You may learn how to combat that situation and override it,
right?
And, learn how to express yourself,
those things.
Right? But it's still there, and there are things that can trigger it to return, even if you've, learned how to manage it. So because as far as I'm concerned, I think this is the most expressive I've ever heard Noi.
Yeah.
And expressive and logically understood, as opposed to just, stepping away or reacting to it.
Or putting it on social media.
Basically responding to it. I mean, to me, she responded to what she now knew, but it was a situation after realizing, or maybe even after him expressing, what his upbringing was, taking her to, his environment, which is the same house that they've grown up in. So, I mean,
that they still live in. His parents still live there.
So, he's pointing out what he did as a child and what they did and how they did it. And his little stuffed animal is still on the shelf as a kid.
And his rock song, that his mom was grooving to.
Yeah, really. Wow. But, I mean, there's, for lack of a better word, there's normalcy there.
Right.
Whereas that was never a part of Noi's.
And she alluded
background.
to that. I mean, she just flat out said, I hope that he realizes, kind of the benefit that he had growing up that way. Because that was not her experience at all.
Exactly.
Now, Dr. Pepper's visit, of course, brought out one of the 2 main issues that they've been struggling with, and that is Noi wanting to keep her apartment and not sure if she wants to move in with Steve after decision day. Even if they both say yes, they're going to stay married. And Dr. Pepper...
Yeah, divulged something that I never knew about. I don't know did you know that?
No. Well, and Noi was very happy.
Married for 16 years.
And lived separately from her husband.
I'm not understanding.
And I don't. And hey, first of all, let us say that whatever you all do is what you do.
True.
If it works for you, it works for you. That would not work for me.
No, I mean, it's difficult to comprehend. But if it comes, it comes down to an understanding. I mean, the manner in which she lives, or her profession, they go to different cities, and I mean, even though Married at First Sight is only a few years old, she's been married 16 years, but that's an arrangement that they've had, I guess.
But she also said that in her first marriage, which was 23 years, she had children.
Right.
And if you're trying to build a family, living separately is not going to work.
That's definitely not going to work.
Okay, so, and in our book, the last tip I want to bring out says togetherness in work and play will keep you bonded. That we were created to need companionship.
We're social beings.
Right. And if being together means different things to different couples. My parents were together pretty much all the time. They did everything together. If you saw one, you saw the other. Very rarely did they do anything, travel or anything separately. Yeah. It happened, but not often. If one was going out of town for a meeting, the other one took off to go with them, make it a mini vacation, and vice versa. But there are other people who don't see togetherness that way. They live more separately. Yeah. The key is, if your preference is to be separate, then that's a problem. If your preference is to be with the girls or to hang out with the guys rather than your spouse, that's a problem.
Yeah. I mean, because that, to me, that kind of indicates that they're not the priority.
Right. And so Dr. Pepper was very clear that if you're looking at that kind of setup, then you have to make sure that it's done in a way that is feeding both people and making both people feel comfortable
in that arrangement.
And then you have to realize you have to be flexible with that arrangement, because that arrangement will not work for every stage of a marriage. And your marriage goes through stages.
True, definitely.
And, there are stages where, the constant togetherness is not feasible. Mm-hmm. Like when you have kids. And then there are other stages where you need to make the most of that. So we'll see how they decide to work it out. I kind of feel like her need for independence
is so new that she still wants some of it.
Right. And with that kind of mentality, she should not have gotten married.
Right. I mean, because her independence was a new experience to her. Her apartment, by herself, doing her own thing.
And that's good.
It's great.
I think every adult, female and male, needs to have that experience. I had it, because we didn't meet till I was 31. You were 33.
Yeah.
No, 34. So we had it to some degree, but I think that's a good thing. So we'll see how that shakes out for them. And that's it, folk. We've talked about everybody.
Yes.
And
I believe I don't know if next week is decision week.
I don't think so, because at the end of
stretch this out.
Yeah, they always do. At the end of this episode, it was 6 days before decision day, so they're gonna stretch it out. I think next week is gonna be a stretch out, and then the following week,
we got to have more turmoil.
Yeah, so the following week might start the march to decision day.
Yeah.
So until then, thank you for joining us. Thank you for listening to us, for responding to us. If you like us, like our page, share our page. If you want to tell other people,
share some ideas of your own.
Yeah. And we look forward to doing this again next week. Until then, peace.
Enjoy.